Somali piracy has haunted the Indian Ocean for decades, with bold raids on commercial ships disrupting global trade. U.S. Navy tankers, vital for fuel supply, patrol these waters to counter threats. In 2025, a massive pirate swarm attacked a U.S. tanker off the Somali coast, igniting a brutal showdown that exposed vulnerabilities and reshaped maritime security. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a midnight assault to an outcome that left the world stunned. At 3:30 a.m. on a moonless night in 2025, the U.S. Navy tanker USNS Supply steamed through the Gulf of Aden, its deck lights dimmed for stealth. Radar picked up faint blips. 250 Somali pirates in speedboats, armed with RPGs and machine guns, swarming from hidden coves. Engines roaring like demons, they closed in, grapples hooking the hull as pirates boarded in waves. Alarms blared, sailors rushed to positions, and gunfire erupted amid the chaos. An RPG struck the bridge, flames leaping as pirates poured onto the deck. The tanker shuddered, turning the calm sea into a frenzy of shadows and muzzle flashes. The crew fought back with ferocious intensity. Marines from an embedded security team unleashed M4 rifles, mowing down pirates in bursts of fire, bodies tumbling into the churning waves. The ship's .50 cal machine guns raked the boats, exploding fuel tanks and fiery geysers that lit up the night. Pirates climbed rails, hurling grenades that rocked the decks, one blasting through a hatch and igniting ammunition stores. Sailors sealed compartments, counterattacking with flashbangs and shotguns in close-quarters carnage. A pirate speedboat rammed the hull, breaching the side, but U.S. helicopters from a nearby destroyer arrived, their rotors thundering as miniguns shredded the swarm. Blood and oil slicked the sea, transforming the tanker into a floating fortress of death. The battle plunged into an electronic maelstrom as pirates, backed by rogue state sponsors, jammed the tanker's radar with high-powered signals. U.S. countermeasures activated, deploying decoy flares that lit the sky like a false dawn, confusing pirate RPGs. Cyber intrusions attempted to seize the ship's navigation, but onboard AI defenses locked them out, retaliating by hacking pirate communications, sowing confusion in their ranks. Drones launched from the Supply targeted speedboat engines, exploding in mid-water bursts that sent debris flying. The onslaught expanded as Somali shore batteries fired blindly, shells splashing near the tanker, turning the Gulf into a high-tech nightmare where invisible waves and gunfire fused in pandemonium. The swarm drew in regional forces as Ethiopian and Kenyan patrols scrambled to the scene, their helicopters joining the fray in a multi-nation shootout. Pirates retreated to shore, lobbing mortars that ignited oil drums on the tanker's deck, flames roaring skyward. U.S. destroyers arrived, their Tomahawk missiles slamming into pirate bases on the coast, leveling compounds in thunderous blasts. Somali militias surged from the dunes, clashing with local forces in sandy firefights amid exploding vehicles. The inferno spread as burning boats drifted, igniting coastal villages, with satellite imagery showing the Gulf ablaze, marking a savage phase of warfare that engulfed the Horn of Africa. The tanker's survival sparked a global piracy surge as emboldened groups across Africa and Asia launched copycat raids on shipping lanes. Trade routes collapsed, insurance rates skyrocketed, and navies worldwide mobilized in a frantic scramble. Autonomous drone swarms patrolled high-risk waters, but pirate hackers disrupted them, causing collisions. International task forces hunted pirate leaders, but rogue alliances formed, blending piracy with terrorism. The U.S. and affected nations forged emergency pacts, but the chaos persisted, with stranded ships and economic fallout signaling a new era of maritime terror. The South China Sea has long been a flashpoint for U.S.-China tensions, with U.S. carriers frequently facing aggressive Chinese submarines and fleets. Provocations from Chinese submarines have pushed tensions to the brink. In 2025, a Chinese submarine's audacious surfacing next to a U.S. aircraft carrier sparked a ferocious conflict, triggering a cascade of events that stunned the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a reckless underwater act to an outcome that left everyone reeling. On a sweltering morning in 2025, the South China Sea near the Paracel Islands simmered with danger. The USS Gerald R. Ford, a U.S. supercarrier carrying F-35 jets, was on a freedom of navigation patrol. Without warning, a Chinese Type 096 stealth submarine surfaced just hundreds of meters away, its sonar locking onto the carrier. The submarine broadcast warnings, demanding Ford's departure from waters Beijing claimed as territorial. Ford held course, radar sweeping relentlessly, the atmosphere electric. Suddenly, the submarine fired a warning torpedo that skimmed past the carrier's hull, detonating underwater and sending a colossal geyser skyward, rocking the deck. Alarms blared, black smoke rose, turning the Paracels into a powder keg ready to erupt with devastating force.
The surfacing ignited a ferocious underwater battle. Ford deployed MH-60 Seahawk anti-submarine helicopters, dropping sonar buoys to hunt the Type 096. Torpedoes from the Chinese submarine sped through the depths, one striking a U.S. escort ship, tilting it violently and erupting in a radiant fireball. China's nearby fleet charged in, firing anti-ship missiles at Ford, punching through its deck and sparking raging fires. U.S. F-35 scrambled, engaging Chinese J-15 jets in a whirlwind dogfight over the sea. Missiles streaked across the sky, a J-15 crashing into the ocean in a blaze, whipping up a small tsunami. Smoke and flames spread, relentless explosions churning the sea, transforming the South China Sea into a battlefield of water and air where every second pulsed with death.
The conflict surged into space with terrifying speed. China deployed jamming satellites, scrambling Ford's aircraft controls. The U.S. retaliated with anti-satellite weapons, obliterating a Chinese satellite, sending orbital debris raining like a meteor shower. In the skies, combat drones from both sides collided, exploding in fireballs that lit up the night. Chinese hypersonic missiles targeted Ford, but U.S. laser defenses vaporized them in blinding flashes. The war expanded as U.S. allies joined, turning the South China Sea into a multinational flashpoint where missiles and black smoke choked everything.
The U.S. launched a full-scale assault, unleashing cruise missiles from submarines to annihilate China's fleet in a rain of fire. Chinese carriers and destroyers sank, their decks erupting in colossal fireballs. China's defenses crumbled under the onslaught, debris flying as command centers vanished. The global economy reeled as oil prices soared. South China Sea shipping routes stalled. Satellite imagery showed vast seas shrouded in smoke and flame, marking an unprecedented phase of warfare without mercy.
The battle's fallout triggered an environmental catastrophe as underwater explosions ruptured oil pipelines, unleashing massive spills that poisoned marine life and coated coastlines in black sludge. Toxic clouds from burning oil rigs drifted, choking coastal cities in China and Vietnam. Neighboring nations scrambled for emergency cleanup, deploying autonomous robots to contain the spills. The U.S. and China, facing ecological collapse, paused hostilities for joint environmental mitigation, but pirate groups exploited the chaos to raid stranded tankers. The catastrophe temporarily curbed the war, but poisoned seas and rising piracy signaled a volatile future.
The Ukraine-Russia war has seen numerous surprise attacks, with Russia's stealthy shadow ships becoming symbols of covert operations. Ukraine relies on intelligence to track these fleets, while Russia uses them to smuggle weapons and supplies. In 2025, a Ukrainian 3,000-kilogram bomb strike on Russia's main port as $200 million shadow ships docked shifted the war's tide, shocking the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a perfectly timed ambush to an outcome that left everyone reeling. On a stormy evening in 2025 in the Black Sea near Sevastopol, Russia's $200 million shadow ships, equipped with stealth technology and advanced weaponry, slipped into the main port for resupply. Ukraine, tracking via intelligence, waited for the fleet to dock. Silent Ukrainian reconnaissance drones confirmed the targets. Suddenly, a 3,000-kilogram bomb from a Ukrainian Su-34 roared down, piercing the port's concrete defenses. The explosion shook the earth, debris flying like a tempest, and the port collapsed in a blaze. Alarms blared across Russia. Rescue teams scrambled to dig through rubble,
but the devastation was immense. The battlefield became a fiery abyss, setting the stage for a brutal infrastructure war.
Russia retaliated instantly, launching Kaliber missiles from Black Sea warships, pounding Ukrainian positions in Odessa with devastating force. Russian Su-34 jets screamed in, dropping bombs on Ukrainian bunkers, rocking the city. Ukraine countered with lightning airstrikes on Russian bases in Crimea, targeting weapons depots. A ferocious air battle erupted, with jets from both sides clashing in deadly chases. Black smoke choked the sky, relentless explosions shaking the ground, transforming the Black Sea into a chaotic war zone where every moment pulsed with danger. The conflict surged into biological warfare with terrifying speed. Enraged by the loss of their shadow fleet, Russia deployed bioengineered pathogens in Ukrainian coastal cities, causing mass illness. Ukraine retaliated by sabotaging Russian biolabs near the border, using drones to release neutralizing agents that triggered toxic leaks. In the skies, drones collided, exploding in fireballs that lit up the night. Russian hypersonic missiles targeted Odessa, but Ukraine's advanced defenses intercepted most, debris raining like a storm. The war expanded as allies joined, turning the coast into a multi-layered flashpoint where biological agents and firepower fused in chaos.
Russia launched a massive ground offensive, aiming to seize Ukrainian port cities to cut supply lines. Tank convoys rolled in, sparking ferocious urban battles. Ukraine countered with rapid ambushes, using precision bombs to obliterate Russian armor. A colossal explosion destroyed a Russian munitions depot, triggering floods and displacing thousands. Neighboring nations were drawn in, with Romania bolstering borders. The global economy reeled as grain and oil prices soared from disrupted Black Sea routes, and satellite imagery showed vast regions shrouded in smoke, marking an unprecedented phase of savage warfare.
The attack's fallout triggered a global trade crisis. Destroyed ports halted grain and energy exports, starving markets and spiking prices. Nations scrambled for alternative routes, forging emergency trade pacts. Autonomous robots cleared toxic zones, while international relief convoys faced attacks delivering aid to ravaged cities. Russia and Ukraine, battered by economic collapse, entered tense UN-mediated talks, but rogue bioweapon smugglers emerged, exploiting the chaos. The crisis paused major hostilities, but crippled trade networks and rising bio-threats signaled a volatile future. The South China Sea has become a boiling cauldron of U.S.-China tensions, with U.S. naval patrols frequently clashing with China's aggressive fleet. Provocations from Chinese carriers and submarines have pushed tensions to the brink. In 2025, a ferocious naval battle in the South China Sea saw the U.S. Navy obliterate China's war fleet in flames, triggering a chain of events that shocked the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a maritime provocation to an outcome that left everyone reeling. On a sweltering afternoon in 2025, the South China Sea near the Spratly Islands simmered with danger. China's Liaoning carrier, flanked by J-15 fighters, suddenly encircled the USS Ronald Reagan, a U.S. carrier on a freedom of navigation mission. The Chinese carrier broadcast warnings, demanding Reagan's departure from waters Beijing claimed as territorial. Reagan held course, radar sweeping relentlessly, the atmosphere electric. Abruptly, a J-15 dove low, dropping an incendiary bomb near Reagan, igniting a fiery explosion on the water's surface. Alarms blared, black smoke billowed, transforming the Spratlys into a powder keg ready to erupt with devastating force. The provocation ignited a ferocious naval battle. F-18 jets roared from Reagan, engaging Chinese J-15s in a whirlwind dogfight over the South China Sea. Missiles streaked across the sky, a J-15 exploding in a fireball that lit up the horizon. U.S. destroyers fired cruise missiles into the Liaoning, punching through its deck and sparking raging fires. China's fleet retaliated with anti-ship missiles, one striking a U.S. escort ship, sending a towering geyser skyward and rocking the vessel. Smoke and flames spread, relentless explosions churning the sea, turning the South China Sea into a blazing battlefield where every wave hid death. The conflict surged into space with terrifying speed. China deployed jamming satellites, disrupting Reagan's aircraft controls. The US countered with anti-satellite weapons, obliterating a Chinese satellite, sending orbital debris raining like a meteor shower. In the skies, combat drones from both sides collided, exploding in fireballs that illuminated the night. Chinese hypersonic missiles targeted Reagan, but US laser defenses vaporized them in blinding flashes. The war expanded as US allies joined, turning the South China Sea into a multinational flashpoint where missiles and black smoke choked everything. The US launched a full-scale assault, unleashing cruise missiles from submarines to annihilate China's fleet in a rain of fire. Chinese carriers and destroyers sank, their decks erupting in colossal fireballs. China's defenses crumbled under the onslaught, debris flying as command centers vanished. The global economy reeled as oil prices soared, South China Sea shipping routes stalled. Satellite imagery showed vast seas shrouded in smoke and flame, marking an unprecedented phase of warfare without mercy. The battle's fallout triggered an unexpected superstorm in the South China Sea, as explosions altered weather patterns, spawning a massive tropical cyclone with 300 kilometers winds. The storm swept through both surviving fleets, sinking damaged ships and flooding coastal China and the Philippines. Neighboring nations scrambled for emergency relief, deploying autonomous robots to clear debris and oil spills. The US and China, facing a shared natural disaster, paused hostilities for joint rescue efforts. But the seas remained littered with wreckage, and insurgent groups exploited the storm to rise. The superstorm temporarily curbed the war, but new tensions and lingering natural threats signaled an unstable future.